Retroblasting is a YouTube channel for adult pop culture enthusiasts. Anyone under the age of 13 should only watch this channel with your parents. Retroblasting is not a children's channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to Retroblasting. I am Matt Swaford. This is my special guest,
Gregg
my
Berger.
honorable guest, Gregg Berger,
Nice to see you.
legendary film actor and voice actor. We're here at Retro Toy Con in Greenville, South Carolina, and Gregg was kind enough to grant us an interview.
Where the people are nice and the food is unbelievable. I had a Southern grilled cheese, which is grilled cheese and greens. Holy cow.
Wow.
Life will never be the same. But anyway.
I'm going to have to grab one of those before we leave. You've done a lot of live acting on film.
Very much so.
I went
Stage
through
was
your-
the beginning.
Really?
Stage is still the beginning. I'm doing a play in Los Angeles right now, so I always try to go back to the stage.
Wow.
So that's the one place the curtain goes up and whatever happens, happens.
Nice.
You tell that story.
That's one thing that IMDb doesn't tell you is like, oh yeah, they do stage acting too.
You know what? It's true.
How, well, okay, I'll alter the question a little bit because I was going to say, how is it different voice acting as opposed to on-camera live acting, but how is that different from stage acting?
Well, on stage, they're all translation problems. Not problems, but challenges. On stage, you've got a world that you create around you with sets, with other people, but you're directly talking. On camera, the relationship is with the camera. The truth on stage has to reach the last person in the last row. The truth on film only has to reach from you to the lens. Everything sizes down, and it creates a level of honesty that it's harder to achieve on stage. Once you get to voiceover, that relationship is between you and the microphone in front of you. You have to create a world mentally around you so that you stay awake and alive and in the zone.
Me, Grimlock here again, Optimus Prime, to pull your diodes out of laser fire.
While you're trying to tell the truth to a microphone. They're all just translations, different versions of the truth.
So it's like an adult version of make-believe, like you have to just imagine it all happening.
It's all an adult version of make-believe when it becomes a career.
Absolutely.
I was in a play that was touring, and we were somewhere in Texas, I think, and I went to rehearsal, and the person who was working in the box office said, "Oh, y'all have play practice today?" And I thought, "No, I don't have play practice. I'm an actor. I have." And then I thought, "Yeah, we have play practice today. That's what we have."
It's stylish. I filled it with all new designer mud.
Mud is mud, Orson.
How has the landscape changed in voice acting over the years? Is there more competition now on auditions? Is there less competition?
Not only is there more competition, there is a dauntingly talented voice community. I think in earlier days of animation, and I kind of was right on the tail of the classic animation voices, but then and when I began, there was a much smaller pool of people who were rewarded for their versatility, for doing multiple roles. And in a lot of the shows, they would cast peripheral roles from within before they would go to outside casting. Then they became more interested in individual roles, so they began just looking for additional unusual people. So the casts got larger. The most important change then to now was it was customary to have essentially like an octopus setup of microphones so that everyone could sit in the room at the same time. Tried not to overlap each other, but if you did, and the animators could figure out a way around it. But it was alive and awake and contagiously whatever it was, whether it was silly and stupid or epic and galactic. Either way, you were all together so you could feed off each other's energies. More often now, you essentially are acting in a vacuum because they put most of the actors in isolation where the director explains exactly what's happening, and then it's your goal to sort of put in your piece of the puzzle because you don't have access to the entire puzzle.
I bet that makes it a lot harder.
It just needs a different skill set. So you have to re-educate yourself. However, all along the way, as those changes happen, there are performers who are not great at whatever the next change is. So, it's just like any kind of athletic or other event. If you don't acquire those new skills or possess them instinctively, you're going to have problem as things evolve. But if you want to stay in the game and go along for the ride, you need to know that things change.
There is too little air to waste it on pointless combat.
Agreed.
I think I know the answer to this one already, but what is your favorite character to voice?
I can't tell you which of my children is my favorite. I can't tell you which character is my favorite. It's always a tie for first place. And all of them are my favorite for different reasons, and I'm not trying to avoid the question. It's just I attach a different time of my life, a different place, a different group of people. All of it's great. The Garfield franchise and the Transformers franchise are the longest living of them. So of course I have more years invested and more friendships and family invested over the years, so those hold a special place in my heart. Grimlock first and foremost, but also Long Haul and Skyfire and Outback. At any rate, I look up and say thank you every time something lands in my court. And the fact that I've been able to glom on to so many characters that have become iconic, I'll take complete credit for my involvement. But you just got to be grateful every time it goes your way.
Those signatures look nothing alike.
Maybe not to the untrained eye, but I graduated first in my class from the John Hancock Institute of Graphology.
Is there a character, not just in animation, but in any medium, on television, movies, past or present, that you would love, that you would have loved or would love to in the future to play?
It's just such a difficult question, only because I spent so much of my early career learning to just let go of whatever it is that sort of went away. My well-meaning parents would come in to Los Angeles and they say, "How did it go?" I said, "How did what go?" "That thing that you were auditioning for the last time you were here." I said, "Well, I'm sure if it was me, they found me. And if it wasn't me, I went out of my way to just let it slide away and go away." There are shows I'd love to be involved in. Family Guy and American Dad, all the Seth shows are of interest. It's just circumstance, but I've never been on them. But I'm so busy and so happy being on the things I'm on. I don't really have time to think about the things I'm not on that I wish I was.
Right. That's a great answer. I asked another voice actor that recently, and he was like, a cowboy.
Oh.
He was like, I've never been able to play a cowboy.
Well, I was able to play cowboy. More than once.
I want to be a pirate.
I played a pirate too.
No matter. Most likely would have fallen down anyway.
If you hadn't become a voice actor, what line of work would you have pursued?
I probably wouldn't have been any kind of actor. I went to school in upstate New York. I got accepted at a university. I was an English major, and I had a pal who's still a friend who was in the theater department and said they were opening auditions to the entire school. Kind of dragged me to it. He said, "You tell stories in dialect." It was an English drawing room play, and I was heavier than I am now, and they needed a sort of pompous, stoic father. Anyway, it was real dark and funny and weird and great, and I got the part. And opening night of that play, which was a Joe Orton play called Loot. I was Mr. McCleavey. The head of the theater department said, "What are you doing in the English department?" I said, "I'm not sure. I'll be a teacher or maybe pre-law or something. He said, "Well, don't stop doing what you're doing." But he said, "You really are the kind of performer that we like to feed and water and cultivate." He said, please expand your field of interest to include us. And I did. And so it was essentially new to me in college, but I think sort of spiritually, sometimes you find your direction and sometimes your direction finds you. And if it does, it's pretty smart to allow it.
That's a great way to
Changed
look
my
at it.
whole life.
You don't frighten me, you mechanical throwbacks! Good Megatron, we love stupid enemies!
How did you cultivate your craft? How did you train? How did you? What are some of the things that you changed and said, "Oh, I'm gonna make myself do this"? Or
I went from Colgate, where I was attending and starting to be in things. I was on an exchange program to a college called Skidmore. That's a whole other chapter and story because both of those schools, Colgate was all men, Skidmore was all women, and they had an exchange program, an experiment in coeducation. And
oh, you poor
I volunteered.
Thing. You poor thing.
35 men, 1,850 women. It was a very memorable semester. At any rate, I ended up financially needing to transfer back closer to home. Plus, my interests were changing. And there's a theater conservatory in St. Louis, where I'm from, called Webster University. Full conservatory program, including movement and voice and speech and acting and just every aspect to put someone into a career in the theater. Just before graduation, I had an acting teacher who was from the Abbey Theatre in Dublin, and he said, if anyone can talk you out of doing this for a living, let them. Meaning, if no one can talk you out of pursuing this as a living, good luck to you.
Interesting.
Yeah, these are all, I have all these things close. They're sort of, they reinforce the way I feel about everything.
Looks like a bad matchup for you. Let's try to have some fun out there, guys.
I know some voice actors have a, not necessarily like a secret, or a trick, but some of them have quirks where they'll talk with their hands, or they'll pinch the air, or they'll put their hands to their ears, or whatever it is. Do you have any of those, like a trademark maneuver?
Sometimes I'll keep a finger in my ear because it lets me get inside my head. Sometimes I'll keep a hand on my chest because I can feel when it's coming from that zone. But for different stuff, you kind of break yourself down into robotic pieces and realize that different characters come out of the top of your head, the middle of your face, get nasal, get dental, get throaty, get chesty. You can vary yourself just by placing your voice in different places. So they're not secrets, they're just awarenesses. But it keeps me in the zone as things go on.
Ma'am, would it be forward to tell you that your voice is of the sirens, your breath is of the lilacs, and your skin is of the soft downy wool of a newborn lamb?
How does it feel knowing that you've created characters that are kind of immortalized, that are going, my grandkids are going to be watching your characters?
It's ridiculous. I've been an invited special guest at conventions as far away as Auckland, New Zealand, Melbourne, Australia, and I will fly thousands of miles, arrive at a signing table or a panel, and people will be waiting to say hello. It blows my mind. This is not product that's confined to any specific area. It's global and it's held close by fans all over the world. I don't take any of that for granted. It absolutely astounds and amazes me. And I value and honor every writer, and I value and honor every artist, and I don't undervalue my contribution to things that have become iconic. It's some sort of perfect storm, and then there's longevity, and there's still love and loyalty, and I value all of it, truly.
If you guys think all it is mud, go ahead and drain it.
I've always thought that voice actors in general, because everybody's voice print is so distinctive, and the community, at least the ones that I bump into over and over and over again, are so talented that I think we all just sort of know that any given job is going to go to whoever's best that day, rightest that day, best for whatever team they're assembling for the show. But I think we have just an extraordinary respect for each other. And I don't think too many people find that in the workplace. And it just makes it a joy even to go through the audition process, because you see colleagues that become friends, that become essentially like family. So that's a whole other aspect of being able to do what it is you love as a career. And that's kind of rare in the world and worth sort of cherishing. And I do.
Absolutely.
And I thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And it comes through.
Fist bump. Boom.
Just from talking to you, it comes through, man. Well, thank you. And I'll let you get back to it. I know you probably got some people waiting on you at your
Thanks very much.
Booth.
I'm back to my table. Cheers.